On April 4th, 1922, neighbors approached a remote farmstead in Bavaria, Germany. The property had been quiet for days. No smoke from the chimney, no movement in the fields. Inside the house, they discovered 6 bodies. An entire family and a maid who had arrived only hours before her death. The victims had been killed with a mattock, a farming tool, but the deaths themselves were only part of what happened at Hinterkaifeck. Someone had remained on the property afterward for days. The animals had been fed. Food had been prepared in the kitchen. Smoke had been seen rising from the chimney. Whoever killed these people did not leave. They stayed in the house. The case was investigated. More than 100 people were questioned. No arrest was ever made. In 1955, the file was closed. In 2007, a modern review concluded the crime could no longer be solved. This is the story of Hinterkaifeck, a case defined not by what we know, but by what remains unknown. Hinterkaifeck was not a village. It was a single farmstead, isolated and remote. It stood roughly 70 kilometers north of Munich, between the towns of Ingolstadt and Schrobenhausen, in what was then the district of Neubach-an-der-Donau. The name itself, Hinterkaifeck, comes from the word hinter, meaning behind. Behind what exactly is uncertain. Perhaps another settlement. Perhaps simply behind the rest of the world. The farm stood alone, surrounded by fields and forests. The nearest neighbors were not close. The family who lived there were the Grubers. Andreas Gruber was 63 years old. He owned the farm and worked the land himself. His wife, Cornelia, was 72. Their daughter, Victoria Gabriel, was 35. A widow. Her husband, Carl Gabriel, has been killed during the First World War. After his death, she returned to her parents' farm with her children. Cornelia, 7 years old, and Joseph, just 2. The farm required help. It was large, and the work was constant. In March of 1922, a maid named Maria Baumgartner, 44 years old, agreed to take the position. She arrived at Hinterkaifeck on the afternoon of March 31st. She had been there for only a few hours when she died. The position had been vacant for 6 months. The previous maid had left and refused to return. She told people the house felt wrong. At night, she heard footsteps in the attic. Footsteps when everyone else was asleep. For half a year, the family struggled to find anyone willing to work at the isolated farm. Maria Baumgartner finally agreed. There was one other detail about the family. In 1915, Andreas Gruber was investigated for an alleged incestuous relationship with his daughter, Victoria. No charges were filed, but in small communities, accusations like this are not forgotten. Victoria's son, Joseph, was born in 1920, years after her husband's death in the war. There was speculation about the child's father. It remains unclear whether any of this was connected to what later happened at Hinterkaifeck. In the days leading up to the murders, Andreas Gruber mentioned several strange occurrences to neighbors. Footprints in the snow leading from the forest toward the house, but with no footprints leading away. Footsteps in the attic, heard at night. A set of house keys had gone missing. A newspaper appeared on the property, even though no one in the family had ordered it. Andreas mentioned these things, but he did not contact the police. On Friday, March 31st, Maria Baumgartner arrived to begin work. That evening, members of the family were seen in the village. Victoria and her daughter, young Cecilia, attended a church service. Others later remembered seeing them there. This is the last confirmed sighting of the family alive. What happened after that has been reconstructed from evidence. The bodies would not be discovered for 4 more days. The exact sequence of events is uncertain. Investigators reconstructed what they could from the positions of the bodies, the nature of the injuries, and the physical evidence left behind. The attack is believed to have occurred on the evening of March 31st, 1922. 4 of the victims were found in the barn. Andreas Gruber, his wife Cecilia, their daughter Victoria, and 7-year-old Cecilia. The weapon was a mattock, a farming tool used for heavy labor. It was found at the scene. Based on the injuries, Andreas Gruber appears to have been the first victim. He was struck from behind. The blows were to the head. His wife was killed in the barn as well. Then Victoria, the child, Cecilia, was found with her hands tangled in her own hair. Investigators believed this indicated she was conscious after the attack. They concluded she may have survived for some time before death. The duration is unknown. Inside the house, Maria Baumgartner was found in her bedroom. Joseph, the 2-year-old, was found in his bed. All 6 victims died from blunt force trauma to the head. But the murders were not the end of what happened at Hinterkaifeck. What followed the killings is what makes Hinterkaifeck so difficult to understand. Someone remained on the farm for days. The neighbors later reported seeing smoke rising from the chimney on Saturday, April 1st, and again on Sunday, April 2nd. The animals had been fed. The cows had been milked. Inside the house, there were signs that meals had been prepared. Bread had been eaten. Dishes were left in the sink. Someone had lived there, in the same space where 6 people lay dead. This behavior is highly unusual. It suggests familiarity with the property or simple necessity. Either way, the reason remains unknown. On April 4th, the mailman noticed that letters were piling up. A neighbor, concerned by the silence at the farm, went to investigate. He discovered the bodies. The police were called. The investigation was led by the Bavarian State Police and prosecutors from the district of Neubach-an-der-Donau. From the beginning, there were limitations. This was rural Bavaria in 1922, and forensic science, as we understand it today, did not yet exist. Fingerprint analysis was also primitive at the time. DNA testing was decades away. No usable fingerprints were recovered. The crime scene was not properly secured. Neighbors, officials, and curious onlookers entered the property before investigators could document it fully. Evidence may have been disturbed, contaminated, or lost. Autopsies were carried out, but the records that survive are incomplete. According to a 2007 review conducted by the Bavarian Police Academy in Fürstenfeldbruck, suggests that critical documentation is missing and it may never have existed. More than 100 people were questioned. These include family members, neighbors, seasonal workers, drifters, and anyone who might have had contact with the Gruber family. Numerous leads were followed, but none led to an arrest. In 1955, the case was formally closed. It remained unsolved. In 1986, Detective Chief Superintendent Konrad Müller-Fuhrmann conducted a final review. He re-interviewed witnesses and examined the remaining records using newer investigative approaches. No resolution was reached. In 2007, students at the Bavarian Police Academy re-examined the case using modern methods. Their conclusion was clear. The crime could no longer be solved. They identified one possible suspect. The name was not made public out of consideration for surviving relatives. With no forensic evidence, no fingerprints, no DNA, and no clear proof, the case remained unsolved, and it remains unsolved today. Over the decades, many theories have been proposed. None have been proven. Some theories point to the possibility that the killer was a family member or close associate. This is because the killer appeared to know the property well. They knew where people would be. They were comfortable staying on the farm after the murders. This suggested familiarity. Some investigators believed the killer must have been someone connected to the family. Maybe a relative, a neighbor, or someone with a grievance. But no one fitting the description was ever charged. Another theory focuses on Victoria's personal life. Victoria was a widow. There were rumors of a relationship after her husband's death, raising the possibility of a scorned lover, a rival, or someone with a possible personal motive. Then there's the theory of robbery. The farm was isolated and could have been seen as an easy target. But money was found in the house. Valuables were untouched. And the decision to remain on the property for days does not fit a robbery. Another theory points to a drifter or stranger. This is due to the disturbances before the murders, the sounds in the attic, the missing keys, the unexplained newspaper. This suggests someone may have been watching the family, possibly hiding on the property. Another theory is that the murders could have been committed by a transient, a laborer, or someone seeking shelter. This theory explains the disturbances. It explains the killer's comfort staying at the farm. But there is no identifying evidence, no witnesses, and no physical proof. For the 2007 suspect, the Police Academy review identified one possible suspect. The details were not released. The conclusion was cautious. Without forensic evidence, the case could not be resolved. What can be said is limited. The killer knew the layout of the farm, had access to a mattock, and remained at the scene. The killer was never identified. The victims were buried in Riedhofen, a nearby village. Before burial, the heads of the 6 victims were removed and sent to Munich for examination. Investigators hoped that forensic anthropology, which was still a developing field at the time, might provide answers. It did not. The heads were never returned. They remained at the University of Munich for decades. According to some sources, they were eventually lost. The exact circumstances are unclear. The farm stood empty. No one wanted to live there, and no one wanted to work the land. In 1923, just over a year after the murders, Hinterkaifeck was demolished. The buildings were torn down. The land was absorbed into neighboring farms. Today, there is only a small memorial. No trace of the house, no trace of the barn, and no trace of the rooms where 6 people died. The case did not disappear. It continued to appear in German true crime literature, documentaries, books, podcasts, and academic discussions. Online communities still revisit the evidence, debating theories and possibilities. But the official record is unchanged. The case was closed in 1955, reviewed again in 1986, and re-examined in 2007. And each time, the same conclusion was reached: unsolvable. More than a century has passed. The farm is gone. The witnesses are dead. The suspects, whoever they were, are dead. But the questions remain. Who killed the Gruber family and Maria Baumgartner? Why did the killer remain on the property afterward? Were the disturbances before the murders, the sounds in the attic, the missing keys, and the unexplained newspaper evidence of surveillance, or something else? If Andreas Gruber had contacted the police, would anything have changed? Was the killer someone the family knew, or a stranger who vanished? And what happened to the heads removed for examination? The 2007 review concluded that too much time has passed, and the forensic evidence is too limited. All witnesses are gone. The case cannot be solved now. But the students noted something else. They implied that the truth may not have been entirely absent. Someone knew the truth. The killer knew. And perhaps others knew or suspected and chose silence. In small communities, secrets endure. Loyalties run deep. It is possible the truth died with someone who never spoke. A confession was never made. A suspicion was never shared. Or perhaps it was simpler. A random encounter, a sudden act of violence, and a killer who walked away and was never seen again. 6 people died at Hinterkaifeck. 3 generations of one family, and a woman who arrived on the wrong day. The killer stayed on the property for days. The crime was never solved. The case was closed in 1955. It was revisited in 1986 and reviewed again in 2007. Each time, the conclusion was the same: unsolvable. The story endures because it confronts us with absence. The absence of answers, the absence of justice, the absence of certainty. Hinterkaifeck is gone. The buildings torn down, the fields replowed, the victims buried. But the questions remain. Who? Why? And where did they go? The answers are not coming. The dead do not speak. And Hinterkaifeck remains what it has always been: a place that once was, and a question without an answer. Our hearts go out to the families and loved ones affected. These are not just stories. They are real people with real pain and real consequences. Thanks for watching Criminal Cadence. Please like, share, and subscribe. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Stay curious, stay aware, and stay safe.